good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us. You are tuning into Tisha Talks live at 10:45 a.m. I am in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and I have my special guest Brian, who's joining me, I believe, in the East Coast. Brian, where are you joining me from today?
So I'm in the Scranton, Pennsylvania area. So you're right
Ah,
in the East Coast.
yeah, you're in that cold weather that I don't know about.
Yes, and I think I think it was 5 degrees this morning when I woke up.
Oh my gosh, I'm praying for warm weather for you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you were tuning in, like I said, to Tisha Talks Live. This is a show I do every single Friday at 10:45, just interviewing cool guests like Brian and talking about some fun topics. And today we are going to get into the world of materialism and is it good or is it bad? And I think that a lot of us have an opinion on this. So if you were tuning in live, either on Facebook, on YouTube, or on my LinkedIn channel, make sure you drop us a line, say hello, join in the conversation. We'd love to hear what you think about this topic too. And we're going to get started with our first question. So, Brian, I would love for you to tell me, what do you think materialism is? Like, what's your definition of materialism?
So my definition of materialism basically is when you base almost all success or all worth off of what you have either possessed materially or what you own, the things that you have. If everything that you're doing ties into some tangible object, whether that's money, whether that's a certain type of house, a certain type of car. So if you're basing everything off of tangible things, that is the definition of being uh, materialistic.
Mm-hmm. This is that more factor. I have to have more. I'm not satisfied until I have more or I have the next level. Would you
Right.
say that? Okay.
Absolutely. I would say that. And the issue is there are pros and cons to being materialistic because the thing that I was doing some research on was, we all have certain material goals, right?
Mhm.
Like there's certain types of houses that we want to live in, there's certain type of car we might like, but it's the intent behind why you want to make that purchase that I feel differentiates somebody that's being materialistic from a totally separate subject matter, which is somebody that is an aesthetic. An aesthetic. So, have you ever heard of that before, Tisha?
I
Somebody that
haven't heard. Like, please dive into that. That sounds pretty interesting to me because I honestly I didn't know that there was a big difference.
there
So
is.
yes, please,
Yeah.
please enlighten us.
Yeah. So, an aesthetic person is somebody that just appreciates things that are well made or things that are beautiful, not because they want to perhaps impress other people or because they feel a certain obligation to keep up with, let's say, their neighbors and the things that they have, but because they actually have an appreciation for that material object. So if
Hmm.
you, let's say, appreciate a beautiful painting or you just really like the food at a specific restaurant, uh, it has really nothing to do with your value or your self-worth per se, but everything to do with just the appreciation of the craftsmanship of that material object. Do you see the difference between the two here?
I do. I do. I definitely think you can like the finer things in life. Like you said, there's an appreciation for it. I want to give a big shout out to this guy. Chris Sykes says, go partner,
Hey,
go
Chris,
partner, go.
that's my
um,
co-host.
yeah, so little backstory. So Brian is with Success Fundamentals. It is a podcast, and Chris is his partner. And the reason the reason we met was Chris actually reached out to me to be on your podcast. So
That's
we
right.
recorded that maybe a couple months ago, maybe before the holidays, and yeah, looking to
Yeah.
collaborate. So Chris is coming on the show in a couple of weeks. So I get the pleasure of having you both on.
Your episode was a great one. I think it's probably going to be aired within the next few weeks. So looking forward to seeing how it all turned out.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, thanks so much for that too. Yeah, I like this discussion, like you said, because you just talked about it. You hit the nail on the head about sometimes we just have those goals of we want this in life. And it's not that it's materialistic. It's like, no, I'm working for this goal. Like I have this goal, Brian, and I've shared it with plenty of people that my husband is retiring in 5 years. He works for the city of Mesa. And he was telling me that once he retires, he doesn't want to go back to working for any government, any corporation, any of that. Like his lifelong dream is to move to Costa Rica or Mexico and work on a boat. And I was like, may I join you
That's
and
so
work at
cool.
a bar serving chips and salsa and smiling at people? He's just like,
Wow.
yeah. I'm like, I actually don't need all this stuff. I mean, I'm so excited actually to sell our house and get out of here and sell everything we have and go there because I value the quality of life that I want. And
Hmm.
people are like, that's so interesting. Like, you wouldn't want to go further. Like, it kind of makes me crazy, Ryan. Like, I get a lot of coaches, and, there's always people that want to inject their opinion. And they're like, you should be making 8 figures. You should be making nine. And I'm like, why?
Hmm.
Why? Why do you
Right.
think that? You
It's an
know?
interesting point. We actually had, believe it or not, a shaman on Success Fundamentals recently, because we're now getting into success from a mind, body, and spirit
Hmm.
perspective. So
Good.
we went heavy into spirit. We got Dr. Mark Weissman on the show. He's a shaman up in Alaska, and he was touching on this very subject, and he said many of the things that we strive for, that we believe are material in nature, are actually a striving for a specific emotion that we want to feel, that we
Mm-hmm.
believe the material thing will create for us. So an example might be, hmm, if I materially change my body and, let's say, lose weight or get more muscular, I think I'm going to be happier. And if you dig in, why do you think you're going to be happier if you achieve this material body that you want? Well, maybe people will like me more. Maybe people will accept
Mm-hmm.
me more, right? So if you peel it apart, it's not really the material thing that you need. It was the acceptance that you needed. It was the feeling
Mm-hmm.
of belonging that you wanted. So Mark said, um, if you can kind of eliminate the material component of that and find different ways to feel that emotion regardless of the material component,
Mm-hmm.
that is when you actually begin to have effectively the goal of becoming a happier, more well-rounded person.
Right, right. So with this materialism, we've seen a lot of this in COVID. Like, I think the biggest lesson that people learn is time is more important than things, right?
Mm,
You see a lot
true.
of people just decluttering. Like, if they were hoarding, like they're emptying everything out, they're donating more, they're letting things go. So do you think that that has changed for a lot of people, that if they were that type before, or if they were materialists before, materialistic, that they really changed because of certain circumstances? Like, how do you think that plays into it? I'm always just
Hmm.
curious to know.
Yeah, I would say COVID probably had some type of effect. I mean, we couldn't hang out with one another, right? So
Right.
if you wanted to buy a BMW to show off to your cousins that you got some money in your pocket, but your cousins aren't allowed to come over to your house because you're social distancing, you don't have to impress anybody anymore because it's just kind of you and your family hunkered down for a year, year and a half. And perhaps during that time, you begin to realize half these things that I bought to impress other people, I'm not even doing anything with them. I'm not
Right.
using half these things that I use or that I thought that I would need. And I could see that having an effect on this this minimalistic approach that's now starting to form.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So deep, Brian. I like it. All right, we have a comment here from my good friend James Christensen. He said, "Great conversation. Materialism was definitely more of an issue in my younger days. Been in our house for almost 24 years and no longer care about what people think, about what I drive, how I dress, or where I live. Get so much more out of experiences than
Mm,
possessions."
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. I just think about last week. My family and I, we went on a road trip with my sons and the dog and my wife, and we just drove through New England. We had to cancel all of our other plans. We were going to go to Puerto Rico, but COVID's getting pretty bad, so we just put together a little Airbnb trip, and we just drove and we just ate at nice little places and did some sightseeing. There was nothing elaborate or fancy about it, but I'll tell you what, Tisha, it was the best vacation I've ever went on, and it was probably
Mhm.
the least expensive vacation I've ever went on. And I think it was because all I was doing was just spending time with people that I liked.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there is one other thing that I did want to actually go ahead. I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
just
no, no,
like I
no.
said.
Well, what you shared right now, and I'm going to bring James back in the conversation because I know his word of the year, and his word of the year is present. And I think that that is so many people's word of the year, or that's at least their intention. I know for me, I lost a friend over Christmas. She was a LinkedIn friend of mine. She died unexpectedly. I just lost my aunt a couple days ago. My dad's in poor health. Like I
Oh,
have so many things that are happening. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Rob, and I actually recorded a video that I'll share later today. But we talked about when things are going so good in your life, do we often think, when is the other shoe going to drop? Like we're always like mentally thinking, oh my gosh, things can't be this good. I know they can't be this good. Something is bound to be bad, like
yes.
happening soon. And I made January a very, and then not just January, but beginning of the year, I was like, this is my intentional month. Like I want to be around the people I want to be around, which is why that event I was telling you about was so important to me to
Mm,
host it to kick off the new year. I want to be around the people. I want to have great conversation. So I've intentionally reached out to the people who really matter to me and I've invited them to lunch or to coffee. I was like, we just need to get together. I just want to be with you. I just want to have a conversation with you. And that is, it just makes the world of difference, and it's not, I mean, I would much rather do that, like you were saying, than spend it on all sorts of possessions that are going to sit in my closet and collect dust.
exactly. Exactly. That idea of presence is something that actually is very difficult for me that I had to work on myself. Even the first 2 days of the vacation, I was doing exactly what you were just describing. I was
Yeah.
thinking to myself, is there like a certain amount of work that I should be doing on this vacation? Because you know what it's going to be like when I get back, uh, and I kept thinking and thinking and thinking about the week after vacation while on vacation. And it took me about 2 days to intentionally settle down and say, Brian, this vacation is not going to last forever.
Right.
So settle that brain down and enjoy the actual vacation. Realize how good you have it right now in these moments. Because if your brain is in next week mode, you're going to really regret not enjoying the things transpiring right in front of your face.
Oh, that's really good. I like that. Don't be thinking about the future, like you just said. Don't be thinking about next week mode. It's right now in the present, the people that you're with, like that's what matters the most. I honestly, Brian, like I'm really good at unplugging. I think it's an art I've learned over the years
Oh, I can
because
learn from you.
I have had those experiences. And if you didn't catch Lee Evans last week, from the UK, he talked about high performance and high achievement and the biggest difference between both. And he
Hmm.
said, with high achievement, you are really trying to achieve in one area of your life while all of the rest of the areas in your life or the infrastructure is failing. Like it was so
Hmm.
good because he talked about you, we are all projects. We're a project. And so with that, I have my family, I have my health, I have my spirituality, I have all of these things. But if I'm so focused on work, 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 everything else is going to start to collapse. It cannot support this infrastructure, right? The
Sure.
pillars are starting to fall. So it was such a great talk. And it kind of reminds me of what you're talking about. But, I remember a friend of mine on LinkedIn, I'm very big into taking trips. In fact, I have 4 trips planned already. I'm going to Hawaii
Cool.
next month, Vegas, and Costa Rica. Like we're doing all these things. I'm so excited about the trips that I plan because it's something to look forward to. And I just know that people on LinkedIn are like, but you're going to be gone. But what about your followers? But what about your posts? And I'm like, who gives a Ryan flying rat's
Mm,
ass? like
right, right.
I'm with my family. I'm having fun. I don't need to be on technology. I don't need to report back to you. I don't owe you anything. Like you can hear about it later.
It's kind of like
And it's
in a lot
yeah.
of ways, it's kind of like the curse of technology. I was reading a few books and watching a few movies about it was like France in the 1800s. It was just a random book I was reading, And back then, before there were cars, obviously before the internet, if you were going to go visit your Aunt Sally that lived up in the countryside and you were in Paris, it was like 3 days on the back of a horse to get
Right.
to Aunt Sally's house, right? And when you're there, it's not like you're gonna do what we do, how we do it now. You visit Aunt Sally, have dinner with her, get back in the car, and drive back to Phoenix, right? You're
Right.
probably gonna spend like a week, 2 weeks with Aunt Sally. And I envied that pace. I thought to myself, wow, you can't do that anymore. Socially, if you're staying on a vacation or going on many vacations, there is, as you just described, this kind of like stigma. Like, Tisha, what are you doing? You're relaxing over here, having a wonderful time, while we're over here not relaxed. There's almost a little envy
No
that you
guilt.
feel.
No guilt.
See, that's great. That's great.
Oh, so we have some more comments. This is a great subject that you have that you've provided for us today, Brian. But we have this coming in from Diane Berry. Hello, Diane. Good to see you. It says this year the grandkids received an experience and not a toy. We went to the Fox Theater and Jurassic Quest, and we had a great time at both. Then our gift was a picture of us at the event. This will be the tradition going forward.
That's awesome.
I love it. Thank you. And then we've got Terry Kane, who is chiming in here. Materialism is not wrong unless it's defined as the love of material, the very worship of things, or ownership of things. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's good too. Diane saying, great advice. As we go to Florida tomorrow on vacation, have so much fun, Diane Berry. I have to give a shout out to Diane because I will always remember her. I had this goal, like you were talking about this earlier, Brian, of like getting back to the gym and you want to just get healthy and you want to be strong. Well, I have this goal that I wanted to be like Letty from Fast and the Furious. You know who Letty is?
Which character is Letty?
Letty is the one that's with Dom. She's pretty badass.
With
Like
Vin
she's
Diesel.
just
Okay.
yeah, with Vin Diesel. And so
Yeah.
Diane's always like, "Go get it, Letty. Go get it."
Wow. Look at that. And I always wanted to be Paul Walker. Look at that.
Yeah. Oh, Paul Walker. May he rest in peace.
Rest in
Good
peace.
guy. But it's interesting because every time I would go to the gym, like Fast and the Furious was playing at the gym all the time. Like it was just all these signs. And then Diane's like, "Go Letty," like fun stuff. We've got this from James again, says it seems to be easier to be present at work instead of in leisure with family or friends. Oh, that's so interesting,
So
James.
true.
I'm getting better at presence with family. This is not selfish, but self-care and brings so much joy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That's that reminds me of a book that I read, Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Did you ever read that book, Tisha?
I didn't read it, but I'll add it to my list.
You're already doing everything he says, but it'll just reinforce your
Good
existing
reminder.
behavior. But he basically says the mind is a tool, right? The mind is a tool, and the mind loves to figure out projects, and it likes to think about the past, and it likes to think about the future. But sometimes the tool of the mind can control us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's important to know how to, as you said before, shut off your mind and actually be present in the moment that you're in. Because if you don't know how to shut it off, the mind will just run you. You'll be sitting at home with your kids. Your kids are trying to get your attention, have a nice time, show you the new toy that they have, but your mind is still at work.
Yeah.
So you're there, but you're not really there.
Right. That's interesting too. And Lee had brought that up last week. Of he actually puts in a journal of "shut it off, Lee." Like that's one of his bucket list items, or just his to-do list items. Is like the last thing that he sees is shut it off. Like have there be closure, and move some of those things that if you couldn't get it done today, move them to a future date. Like don't leave them, because if you're constantly thinking of, dang it, I should have done this, I should have finished this, like that's going to take precedence over you being with your family. You can't be with your family and think about your family. You're thinking about all the things that you didn't get done, and now it's the stress that you're carrying over.
Sure. And in a lot of ways, we all try to be like sacrificial lambs to our family. I just feel like it's almost instinctual. But you got to remember that you're also being an example to your family too. So if you don't want your kids to be that way, but you're always that way, it's you're probably lining your kids up to be that way because you're the
Right.
example.
You are. You've got to lead by example. So I mentioned earlier that my aunt passed away a couple days ago,
So
and
sorry to hear that.
no, thank you. Well, she had dementia, and she's had that for the last 4 or 5 years, and so I feel like her, she didn't have that time with her kids at the end, and by the end, she couldn't remember her children's names. She couldn't remember anything. So it was just a bad quality of life. But over the week on Monday, I took my mom out. My mom is just healthy, happy. She looks just like me. She could be my sister. And and like Diane said, I'm very big into giving experiences. I don't actually give gifts. Like I might give little things here and there, but I'm like, no, we're having an experience. We're having a memory together. This is what it is. And I took her to see the show Nonsense. I took her for dinner, and then we saw the show Nonsense, which is this hilarious musical about five nuns trying to raise money for the four dead nuns that are in the freezer. It's hilarious. And I just remember looking over at her, and she's just laughing and she's smiling. And I'm like, that's how I want to remember this woman. Because I
Right.
get all teary eyed, right? But, you
Sure.
know, as she's telling me about my aunt, she said she didn't really have those experiences with her kids. And I feel very fortunate that I get to do that, like that I get to plan that and be intentional about the things that we get to do together.
That's beautiful. I mean, I was playing hide and seek with my kids the other day, and I was like, "This is the most fun I think I've had in like months and months, and maybe even years." And and to them, it was a lot of fun too. Remember
Yeah.
how much fun hide and seek
Oh,
was when you were
yeah.
4 years old? Uh,
Yes.
And that didn't cost anything. It didn't cost anything. It was just being in the presence of my children, and it brought me so much joy.
Yeah. And what you shared right there too, Brian, is sometimes I think we as parents or we have this inclination that it has to cost a lot of money. Like you even said, the trip that you took really didn't cost a lot of money. It was,
Right.
you were resourceful, you found great restaurants, like you were on this road trip and just playing hide and seek. My kids, we went to Disneyland one Christmas, and then the next year we just went to Flagstaff. And I asked them, I'm like, what was your favorite trip? And they were like Flagstaff. And you know what? It was playing in the snow, which was free.
Yeah. Right.
So I think we need to get away from this. I think this spending all sorts of money, going into debt, is
Oh,
going to make this happy. Like people are going to be happy. I'm like, I can't tell you how much money I spent on children's gifts for it to sit in the closet, and I give it away or I donate it, or
you donate it.
it's
Yeah.
just there's got to be a better way. So I really love this topic of materialism. Thank you for
Mm.
sharing that and bringing it up.
Matt, I love the topic as well, and I think it's an important thing to reflect on from time to time.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else that you would like to share? I know you have one more question, but do you think there's an unhealthy, we might have covered this already, but an unhealthy expression of materialism?
Sure. I mean, it's really just it goes back to the intent. Why are you buying the things you're buying? Going back
Yeah.
to my trip, I did spend a lot of money on expensive jellies and jams at this one place called Stonehill Farm, where they like pick blueberries in the woods of Maine.
Wow.
And yeah, but it's not.
But,
But I was
but,
I was not doing it to compete with my neighbor who only eats Smucker's jam. It's because it was absolutely delicious, right? So the intent had everything to do with the fact that I just liked the taste and quality of this particular jelly, so I spent a little money on it.
yeah,
Now, if it was to compete with my neighbor, that would have been a materialistic purchase. It would have been the intent would have been off.
that would be you saying, "Come on over, neighbor. I'd like to give you some toast with this nice jelly that I bought."
Yes. We'll have like a jelly potluck. Oh, you brought Smuckers? Oh,
I'm so much better than
yeah.
Smuckers.
Mm,
No, I mean like you've just talked about earlier, like you can enjoy the finer things in life if that brings you joy, but you're right, it's about the intention. Why are you getting that? If it is to show off or to be like, look at me, then that's where I would say you're being a little materialistic.
amen.
Yes, good stuff. All right. Well, I want to give you the floor to share what you and Chris are up to with Success Fundamentals. And then how can people reach you? How can people hear about your podcast? I know I have your website up here, so I'll put that up as well. But go
Thank you.
ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Brian.
Well, the best place to find all of our content is on our website, successfundamentals.com. It'll also link you to all of our social media links. We have 2 shows a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We're doing a lot of exciting things on Success Fundamentals. We started the show in June with the intent of interviewing top business people and entrepreneurs to try to uncover what it takes to achieve success. But as the show progressed, we increasingly saw that more and more people were talking about things outside of just money. They started talking about spirituality and physical health. So as we progress, we have episodes, like I said earlier, where we're interviewing spiritual leaders, physiologists, psychologists, as well as top business executives, attorneys, to really try to understand what it means to be a successful person.
Mm. Yeah, it's a great show. I can't wait for our episode to come out. So
Oh
awesome. All
my.
right. So check them out, successfundamentals.com. Tisha Talks Live is going to be off the air next week. I'm actually have some a date with my dad. You know, I'm taking care of my dad and while my mom is away. And so I will be off the air, but we'll be back on February 4th. Chris Sykes joins me, which is Brian's co-host, partner in
My
crime.
buddy.
So you don't want to miss that. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Some great comments all across the board on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Thanks so much for being with us today. And we hope you enjoy your weekend and happy Friday. And remember, be present in the moment.
Present.
Right, Brian?
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Thank you,
All
Tisha.
right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see ya.